there.
There. Hi, James.
Hi.
Nice to meet you in the video for the first time.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
So now we wait. I'm if it's all right with you, I'm planning on doing the initial introduction to you as a moderator and editor and etc. And then listing the authors who are going to be present, but leaving the remainder of the introductions up to you. Is that okay?
That's fine, yeah.
All right. And I have P.T. Mackham, Bronte Weiland, Stuart Baker, Holly Schofield, Jared Adams, Ira Naiman, Letty Prell, Anatoly Belilovsky, and Ryan Priest as our authors.
Did you say Stuart C. Baker? Because I don't believe Stuart is trying to make it as well.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okie doke. One of the things that I would like you all to touch on, if it's in the scope of things that you think are important to discuss, are the exercises and activities that go into extrapolation involved with science fiction.
Yeah, I think that's like one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to science fiction. Like, you know, how we got from, you know, your idea from where we stand now, presently.
Right, and things like I don't remember exactly who said it, but I think it might have been Asimov. But that the real trick lies in the secondary effects of that extrapolation. That's where you really get into the meat and potatoes. So, for example, it's not that tough to imagine what kind of impact teleportation might have on society in terms of we don't need cars and highways anymore, how it would affect shipping, etc. But the existence of a flash crowd is one of those secondary kinds of extrapolations that leads to really interesting views of how things might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's really hard to add on to that, especially since you know, when it comes to like that kind of like extrapolation of things you might not have otherwise envisioned. You know, everyone has their unique kind of analysis on what that might entail. And it's always fun to hear someone speak about that, you know, like when and besides that, I'm a very like imaginary type of person. So when you said flash mob, I literally like had a diversion where I was looking at this flash mob happening, you know. It reminded me of that one thing where like that I don't know who they were. There was like some kind of social media group where they like flash mobbed in the Best Buy all wearing blue shirts, looking like the help, you know, like the Best Buy clerks and like assistants and stuff. And I thought about that in terms of protests and in terms of like, you know, people just teleporting, showing up right here, like. And so like what you just said, like, literally takes me into my own mind space for a moment. So when I said, yeah, I was quite distracted thinking about that kind of stuff. And this is kind of where my own stories grow from, with these kind of conversations.
Yeah, Larry Niven may have seen flash mobs, but he didn't see a Brazilian prison yard full of prisoners dancing to Thriller. So
no. But you know, if you can achieve that level of secondary, tertiary, etc. I'm looking for the right word. Beyond extrapolation, effects of a new concept being introduced to society. I think, you know, the old example, not of this necessarily, but of how to let people know that they're in the future is that Heinlein quote of the door dilated. Just, you
Hmm.
know, as a passing kind of a thing, instead of saying the door opened, the door dilated, and we moved right on without realizing that he just slipped an aspect of the future in on us that was unexpected. Um, uh, all that kind of stuff. What I'm really um, hung up on these days, I guess is a fair way to put it, is that for the last 10 years or so, there's been a fair amount of discussion among primarily science fiction authors who have been taking the tack that science fiction is not about, quote unquote, not about predicting the future. It's about reflecting on our own times in an environment or a setting where it's easier to talk about perhaps difficult issues because it's that one step removed from our own reality and we can look at them a little bit differently. Um, that's absolute, in my opinion, that's absolutely true aspect of science fiction, but the objective of using the literature to peer into the future and gain some idea of what it might be like in both terms of places where we might want to go or places we want to avoid going, at least used to be a central aspect of the toolkit of the authors. And of course, I'm going to the 40s and the 50s
Hmm.
in saying that, but I read these things on the part of people who are publishing in the field, who are well received, and I then look at a video of Arthur C. Clarke being interviewed saying, well, my job is to predict the future. Uh, and I have a great deal of difficulty reconciling these two views of the genre um, because really uh, they're aspects pretty much of the same activity, and I don't see a need to separate the two uh, from each other. I mean, if you can accurately extrapolate the effects of some technology or social movement 10, 20, 100 years into the future through predictive analysis, and then use that to reflect on where we're at and how we might or might not get to that particular instance of the future, it's all part of the same ball.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, especially since I kind of look at it like almost like the mice quotient that um what's his name? Guy who wrote English games. Anyway, the mice quotient. Like in most stories are a blend of things. You can't just have like a straight Milu or straight character type of story. It's a blend of things, and I think science fiction fits that same kind of premise where you can have it's not just going to be a social or technological examination. It's not going to just be a character in a leotard in the future not doing anything that's not believable. It's a blend of things where you can have a character drama with cool technology and hell just some action, fast-paced action, um and I don't think any story that just focuses on that one thing is going to be or any just one particular thing is going to be a very well received story. It might be fun
No,
for some people. It might be like, like Twinkies. Like if it's all like just daring do in action, then it might be like, satisfying for the, Buck Roger aficionados that just want, pew pew laser blast. Sad puppies
pew
folks
pew.
that, just want to shoot lasers and rescue damsels. It's like, okay, cool, but we're not really, moving the needle at all. Some of that stuff's disposable and it's fun for a minute, but I don't know who would want to just consume strictly that, you know.
No, I really think that, and as the Chinese are now pushing and have been for the last several years, they actually view the genre as a tool for social engineering
Oh
of
yeah.
using the stories to depict something desirable or not desirable, and then using that to move their people in the desired direction.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that scares the heck out of me with the possibility of them hosting a Worldcon in 2023.
We'll see how that goes. Oh man.
Everybody's telling me that they don't think that it's going to win because of all of the Uyghur issues, the Hong Kong issues, et cetera, and I remain very concerned that there's an awful lot of Chinese science fiction fans, which is a good thing, but they're all going to vote for having one in their home country, which is, I completely understand. And if it were not for the political aspects of it, I would be 100% behind it. But
Yeah, we'll see.
You know, it's ironic for me because Heinlein was one of my favorite authors, and from the age of 10 on, from his writing, I always expected there to be one world government, and you know, that kind of a future. And here I am finding potential aspects of it to be non-desirable.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, if that's what you grew up reading, you know, give it time. There's still room on that for that on the table, as far as I can see.
Oh, I was just writing a post the other day, responding to somebody on Facebook. I said, you know, by this point in time in my life, I was supposed to be working on the moon.
With your flying car.
Going to work in my flying car, and then, you know, what the heck happened? Look how far off we are from the future that was envisioned in the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think from a technological, and I actually kind of like ranted about this a little bit, just a small bit. That from a technological like standpoint, I don't think we're that far from a flying car. I think it's actually today. I think what it is like we haven't advanced from an evolutionary standpoint as people to be able to drive a flying car. We get in accidents on 2 dimensions. And I don't want to be driving my flying car and some lady comes up and hits underneath my car while I'm just driving this way because they're putting on their makeup or they're distracted or they're texting. So I think they envision the right technology, but the social aspect of it, they haven't like framed. Now, once we get like, you know, autopilot like down pat, and it's like, flying cars are going to be here. I am, you know, very convinced of that, because once you take driving out of human hands, then yeah, we fly everywhere. It'd be great.
As long as the system is maintained.
Exactly.
And nobody hacks into it. They did like 3-4 years ago. Somebody hacked one of the test self-driving car systems, and they did it fairly simply. I don't remember the details, but that's one aspect of it that going to have to be very well engineered and thought out. Like if anything odd appears to the programming, it just shuts everything down and takes you off to the side of the road instead of continuing on whatever it's doing.
I was just imagining James's just description of a little old lady ramming into his flying car from below. But then I pictured the next scene is when she gets out on her jetpack to start screaming at him.
Yeah. It's fussing, every car's flying every which way. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things, man. And it's fun because like it's those kind of like aspects of like science fiction, like you said. Like you think about like you have your major arc and your major plot narrative and stuff, but some of the visual imagery is enough to where that takes you into a whole nother direction. Like when you talk about the door dilating, you know, or me watching The Fifth Element and seeing all the traffic on different levels.
Right.
It's just like, oh, I could just literally just watch that happening for a good long while and want that to be the present, and that kind of desire to want the things you see extrapolated from the future to be the present is what I think unlocks a lot of scientific advancement.
When I saw Avatar for the first time, not too happy with the film itself, because Cameron is a thief, in my opinion. But
yes,
my first thought when we got to the actual jungle, which a lot came from his undersea explorations, his deep diving. My first thought was somebody needs to make a movie that's nothing but a 2-hour travelogue of an alien world. Forget the action story, forget, all that. Just take us to one of these worlds that's fully realized and put it up on the screen in big bright colors, kind of a thing. Because I mean, a lot of it, what you're saying is a lot of it is that sense of wonder, is just, suddenly being in the future and going, wow.
Yeah, it really is. No, I think they actually have a show on Netflix I've been meaning to check out called like
Alien Worlds or something like that.
Yeah, so I think the travelogue has made it based on like the same thing we talk about, where we kind of just want to see that we don't need some dude trying to save a whole culture, with a like saving throw last minute like idea, anything like that. We just, hey, this would be cool, let's just see the world.
I saw a little bit of that documentary. The only thing I would say about it is that it was too focused on individual species that might arise on an alien world, as opposed to giving us a full picture of an alien ecosystem.
Okay.
The thing too is, even in the old travelogues, they would impress some sort of semblance of story onto what they were showing to keep people's attention. But yeah, Avatar is also a sore point with me.
Cameron is a sore point with me.
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly liked Titanic up until the end credits.
He was sued by 2 authors and settled out of court over his Titanic story, just like he was sued over
Terminator
and Terminator. Yeah,
I didn't know about the Terminator thing. He got sued over Terminator.
Harlan Ellison.
Harlan Ellison sued him. It was lifted from was it The Sixth Thing or A Demon with a Glass Hand? I can never keep the two straight. And Soldier episodes of The Outer Limits. And Cameron actually said during an interview with Starlog magazine that, I stole a couple of episodes from The Outer Limits by Harlan Ellison. And that, at Cameron's insistence, that was excised from the printed version of the interview.
Wow.
But the interviewer sent a copy to Ellison. He did not get an invite to this. Oh, there goes my poster again. He did not get an invite to the screening. Who has a cat?
I have one, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't my cat.
Wasn't mine. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And he snuck into the screening of it and basically just sat there while the top of his head exploded, and then he went to town on. So if you notice in all the prints of that movie that have come out since, at the end they agreed to put something like with acknowledgement to Harlan Ellison or something like that. They wouldn't go far enough to say based on story 5, but they gave him with acknowledgement to Ellison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I will say, as far as Terminator, Titanic, possibly Avatar, my problem with Avatar is not who he stole from; it's how badly he did with what he did. I mean, visually, I loved it, but oh my gosh, it's such a simple, lazy story. Dances with cats.
Yeah.
It just really that's what really bugged me about it. And everybody getting all excited about him now working on 6 more movies or something, and I'm like, I'd rather see him try something else, please. Thank you.
I'd rather he didn't do any other films ever again, period.
Oh, I think he's a really good director, and I enjoy his personal interest in science fiction. It's not like
Did you see James Cameron's
science fiction authors didn't borrow off each other constantly
No,
anyway.
but they don't go to a convention and talk about their book, and somebody raises their hand and says, "What does this have to do with Heinlein's Starship Troopers?" and admit that it was, publicly admit that it was a takeoff or a response to. Oh no, I thought this all up myself. That's the problem I have with it, and the attendant impacts it has on writers in the field. If Ellison had gotten full credit up front for Terminator and the writing of the script for Terminator, given the personality, would it have changed things with his relationship with Hollywood? Probably not, but it stood a chance of doing so.
Yeah, but from our own experience with Hollywood, how reticent they are to do that.
Which is why we must fight it every step of the way, even if it's a losing battle.
I agree, because credit is important. You got I feel about proper credit. So, yeah, I mean,
sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying that. So I would love. I mean, because science fiction writers like good ones, and sometimes the bad ones just fluke out and make some really good stories, and they just for them to take it and just say, "Yeah, this is my story." It's terrible. I hate that. That's why I have a problem with Disney. But yeah,
I've watched recently both of the old Outer Limits episodes that Ellison wrote, and it's really stretching a point to say that you can see anything of them in Terminator.
Go back and look at the very opening of Soldier, and then look at the very opening of Terminator, and you will see that it is a direct copy of the opening scene.
All I can say is I've seen it elsewhere, even before Terminator. I think it's just sort of, there's a lot of visual tropes that are used. Trancers bears a certain amount of similarity. So I mean, it's not that I don't think Ellison didn't have a point. It's that he was never going to let that up, and more power to him. But I don't think it means that Terminator isn't an interesting property on its own.
No.
For the first two movies.
No. And I enjoyed the movie. Fortunately, I saw it before all of the lawsuit stuff came out, because otherwise I'd probably hate it now. But
I still like it fine. Of course, the second one is better. I like Aliens quite a bit as well. The Titanic is spectacle, and the only reason I hate the end credits is because that song was played everywhere. And
Holly has just joined us, and Philip is joining us, and Jared is joining us. Hello, hello.
Hello.
I'll take this initial moment. I'm Steve, by the way, if you can't read the screen. And Kermit is over there, and James, your editor, is right there with the white headphones on. And I'm going to take this one moment to run out and take care of something, and I'll be right back. So please feel free to put on your audio and discuss things amongst yourselves.
All right.
So I was moving from talking about the only thing about Titanic that bothers me is Celine Dion's song, because it was on local radio forever, and I just got really sick of it. But yeah,
I thought it came like a national.
Avatar is just really, really poor, simplistic storytelling. It's not the level of what he'd been up to before. And so that's my conclusion on that, while Steve reorganizes his room.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that song made Celine Dion like a Canadian national treasure or something like that. Because yeah, I heard it all the time, relentlessly. So I'm like, okay, not quite my jam, but you know, people loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jared and Philip, both of you still have your microphones muted. Holly just went muted too.
Yeah, I typically keep it muted unless I'm saying anything, but
Just wanted to make sure. So,
Well, that was a perfect example of seeing what's behind the screen when you're not supposed to. I'm in the process of packing up my house and moving, and things are terribly, terribly messy and disorganized. Jared and Holly, you have your audio turned off.
we just
There we
went
go.
through
Can you-
that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hello. Thanks for showing up. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do an initial intro, and then James is going to take over from there. I'll be monitoring the chat and the waiting room, and hopefully dealing with any issues that come up as they come up. But otherwise, I'm going to be in the background.
All right.
And there's
Hi,
Stuart
everybody.
Hey.
Hi,
and
James,
Letty.
Holly, Steve.
Good to see everybody.
We have nobody in the waiting room, and we're still missing a couple of our panel participants. Philip,
Oh, Lloyd.
there's Lloyd.
I was going to ask about Lloyd. I think I'm not quite familiar with Lloyd.
Lloyd, meet James. James, meet Lloyd.
Hello, James.
Hi,
Hello,
Lloyd.
Kermit.
Oh, it's Anatoly. About to send a tweet out so everybody can know we're live.
Unless there's some objection.
All right.
Ryan is here now.
Good to see
Hello, everyone.
everybody. Hello.
And we can kind of hear Bronte.
Only kind of.
Hi, guys. Still at work, so kind of in uniform. I may be popping in and out.
All right.
Are you at work at some sort of medical facility?
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you for the work you're doing.
You're entirely welcome.
Ryan, is your audio off deliberately?
Yeah, I didn't want to give anybody feedback. Am I good now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. And Stuart, the same question to you. Okay. Holly, I already know about. Jared, I already know about.
Yeah, I got kids running around the house, so I try to keep it off when when I can.
Okie doke.
In here.
The waiting room is beginning to pile up on me a little bit. I think, is everybody okay if we wait another 5 minutes to see how this develops and then proceed?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Formalities? Okie doke. Please speak
We
your
could
mind.
have James talk about how much he loves Avatar.
I mean, if you're talking about the Nickelodeon cartoon, it's great. But if you're talking about the actual movie they made from that, not so much. I'll be the first one to admit when I go on the road, when I go and travel to places, the only station I keep on is Cartoon Network. And like I see a lot of fun shows. It's great. You know, besides that, Adult Swim is kind of built now to where if you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, you know it's totally programmed for high people, and it's kind of great to have a trip through someone else's like bad trip. You know, it's kind of exciting. But like I mean, I've seen like shows for kids that I find highly entertaining, like Gumball. This is something I would have loved as a kid, but I love it now. So yeah, Cartoon Network all day.
Well, I remember the good old days of Nickelodeon. You
Mm.
kids don't have the great animation we had back in my day.
No, there's still frames with the moving mouths, clutch cargo.
No, I didn't mean as far back as you, Steve.
Okay, true story. So the year was 1985. I was in med school, and I had a professor who really did not like me. She decided to flunk me. So her evaluation of me went from the beginning. Anatoly's performance has given us great concern for the following reason. It went A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Point K, mind you, was Anatoly was once caught watching Saturday morning cartoons during rounds.
Nice.
It's crazy.
So,
Yeah.
apropos of Nickelodeon, there was no Nickelodeon. That it was all like network Saturday morning cartoons.
Yep. 4 channels, including PBS, which was the National Education
Yep.
Television, NET. But we never had any trouble finding something to watch.
Oh yeah, I did. Oh gosh, the days of 4 channels, the horror of having to watch PBS with my parents. No, not Sesame Street, but they'd be watching something else. Although when it got later, we had Monty Python, so that was good.
I think television was both good and bad back then. It was bad enough to make kids want to go out and play, which is great. But it was good in that we had a shared experience. We always had something that we all watched because there was only so many channels to watch. Now you all could be watching a show I've never even heard of, much less watch. So it's hard to find that community unless you're online and a place dedicated to that. But just talking shop about, hey, you see that? Yeah, that's great. Not so much anymore.
It's one of the things that's tearing us apart, is not having as many shared experiences in society as we used to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really our culture. And it doesn't matter how many TV shows we make, we don't have culture if we're not watching the same ones, because it don't really enrich our lives. If you can't call your friend and be like, hey, did you see that? What'd you think about, that episode of whatever, it's kind of sad.
And it's not,
That's true.
and it's not the same as saying, did you see it? No, I'll watch it on streaming tomorrow. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Ira.